Let's go ahead. We'll move on to our next speaker. The topic here is policy engagement and collective action in South Africa, the Sasol experience. This will be Martin Ginster, who is the Senior Water Advisor with Sasol. Please welcome Martin.
Thank you, Rob, and also thank you for the opportunity to participate in this meeting and giving me that chance to get to India. I'm really delighted to be here. As a South African, it's really intriguing and fascinating because of the connection and the strong one there is with the people of South Africa. I work at Sasol, an oil and gas company, or an energy and petrochemical company. We're probably best known for the ability to convert synthesis gas to hydrocarbons via the Fischer-Tropsch process. We produce about 28% of South Africa's transportation fuel requirements from oil, gas and coal. We also have chemical interest in nitrogen, both fertilizers and explosives, wax, solvents, polymers, surfactants, just to name a few. Also interest in Germany, North America and Qatar. But this talk will be around our interest in water, and particularly water security to our operations in South Africa, where we require water to regulate temperatures and generate steam, and this water is required at a very high assurance of supply. And this is water that we source from the inland Vaal River system, and that I can show you in a little insert of the map, just showing the size of the catchment. Perhaps it's important to understand the context of water and water availability in the inland region of South Africa, which has over time been structurally altered the hydrology of our water supply through the movement of water from where it's generally available to where it is needed, creating a high assurance of supply. And this we do through infrastructure, dams, interbasin transfer schemes. Water, Sasol its two operations in the Vaal, located in the Vaal River. I just show a little star the general area where the Sasol operations are located. And Sasol uses about 4% of the total yield of the Vaal River system. The other big user is the electricity utility, Eskom, and then more or less similar volumes of water used in irrigation and in domestic use. Now, it's quite important to perhaps distinguish between the type of water use, or if we should perhaps call it less of a use in terms of losses, showing the 17% of the total yield that is, in a sense, lost due to the domestic sector. There's another 6% in the agricultural sector. This is as complicated as it goes. I don't think I should go into the details here, but this shows the predicted demand of water off the black horizontal line being the total availability of water from the Vaal River system. It's about 2,900 million cubic meters of water. The red line shows the high water growth scenario, and the black progression line is the high water demand scenario with water conservation. And what we really try and show in here, if anybody talks to me about the Vaal River system, I say the Vaal River system is out of balance because, number one, there's a significant amount of water losses due to unlawful irrigation in the upper reaches of the Vaal system. There is a huge amount of physical losses that I showed in the previous slide in the municipal water supply system. There is an increasing demand and competition for water, shown by the two demand lines, predicted demand lines, and then there's a new water supply being planned that will be additional supply water from the Vaal River system. So those are the sort of levers that we are dealing with. And as Sasol, big user, not the biggest, but having an unusually large footprint on this significant catchment, have had to ponder on where to perhaps focus our efforts. recognizing the importance of the direct operations and making sure that you have a handle on these. I think it's somewhat unfortunate that, or the reality that some of the designs of our facilities was done in the 60s and they were built in the 70s, so there's certain structural limitation to how much water can be saved on the internal operation, but that will always be the focus. We do argue that reducing municipal water losses presents a typical opportunity for Sasol. It's in our territory as an engineering company. We're good with pumps and pipes. We think that there are the opportunity, and the key message here is going beyond the factory fence line and looking at water conservation is a way to go. Just the figures there show the extent of losses in terms of non-revenue water for 4 key municipalities reliant on the Vaal or accessing the Vaal River, generating about 427 million cubic meters of lost water. And I'm not saying those are all physically lost, but it's lost in terms of revenue and physical losses, which is in almost same amount of water that both Eskom and Sasol use combined. A typical focus would be leaking pipes, leaking toilets, reducing the high pressure of some of the systems, the water supply systems, and we have spoken about those elements previously. But it's relatively simple interventions. This talks to our link to water stewardship, which I think is really premised on the 3 areas of assessing your water risks, making sure that you understand. And I think we're quite at an advantage in South Africa. The Vaal River system is pretty well studied. There are good models. There is a 6-monthly Vaal River Strategy Steering Committee where we are able to influence to an extent as a participant on that meeting what is happening. So we have a good idea. We know that the Vaal system is stressed. It is, despite the good rains, we recognize that its ability to supply water is not as sufficient to meet the demand on a sustainable basis. So we have a good idea of assessing. The next thing about Water Stewardship 101 is you've got to really respond to that. And we have in many ways. We've built further augmentation schemes like the pipeline I show in that photograph. We've also looked at water recovery on our direct operations through membrane desalination. We're arguing that to make the case that there is an opportunity to go beyond the factory fence line and implement water conservation in municipalities. And then the third key element of water stewardship is then to disclose and communicate, because ultimately we need to satisfy a range of stakeholder interests. We have investors like through CDP and others really interested in what we're doing, and I think correctly so. We need to understand these risks and make sure that the responses that we are doing to our water are meaningful and are measurable. And otherwise, I think this water stewardship becomes a very blurry and difficult to justify concept. This project is about a €1 million investment, half between Sasol and half with GIZ. With also some of GIZ's funding came from the UK aid and AusAid to put into a kitty €1 million to implement water conservation measures in an Mfuleni local municipality to drive savings such that these savings can be in a sense ring-fenced and create opportunities for further savings. I think this model is quite important. We call it that there's got to be something in it for everybody, would be our argument. We're looking at, for example, Sasol, on the one hand providing seed funding, but we want to reduce our water risk. And it talks then to the whole idea, and we're very cautious in this space around the whole policy debate around water offsetting, because clearly over time we would like to see a return for these type of investments. This is not philanthropic. It is a meaningful response, we think, on achieving better water security on the catchment for all users in a more meaningful way than just keeping going at our direct operations. For GIZ, I think they would obviously provide seed funding, but I think they would, and other development agencies, is the governance and the auditing role, that these should be and hopefully would be seen as credible projects. The community would benefit from local economic activity, and very importantly for the municipality, they would realize the savings, which could then be ring-fenced and reinvested into the community. It's really important that we set measurable targets and timeframes. So establishing the baseline upfront has proved a challenge, but I think it's really important agree on the auditing processes upfront, set targets, and support performance-based contracting. So a lot of the actual physical work is done by contractors, and they also need to be incentivized by a performance-based approach. I think it's also important not to just focus on the water security aspect. I think it's also important to not just look at the physical interventions, look at skills development, both within the municipality as well as these so-called water warriors or plumbers that get trained up to actually do the interventions. There's opportunities to influence consumer behavior through knowledge, and there are other influencing strategies like considering the functioning around water meters, appropriate rate recovery mechanisms, and an enforcement of municipal bylaws. So in summary, I think assurance of water supply is very critical to Sasol. It is something we have a very keen interest in. I want to make the case it's not our only issue, but we've thought about it, and we do think this is an area we really think we need to go beyond the fence line, and in order to achieve more meaningful response. I think the private sector response can be enhanced through dealing with addressing a shared water risk, and the policy angle around offsetting is in the throes of conversation, and I think the way we're going about it, I think is hopefully seen as constructive. Put something decent in there, see that it works, and then in addition we have also been doing some work on making a proposal and working with the National Department of Water Affairs on how such an offsetting model can work. We're still very open. I don't think it's going to be volume per volume, but at least some meaningful measure of giving companies additional assurance of their security of supply into the future. So we think we could incentivize the private sector, achieve more cost-effective water savings and quality improvements, and further by tackling those lower-hanging fruits and freeing up more water. It should be that the whole pool should be increasing and making water more available for growth, historically disadvantaged people and small-scale users. So that's where I want to leave it at that. Thank you.